What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the One Family Martial Arts Podcast. I'm Ash, Master Instructor of Iliqchuan and student of Grandmaster Sam Chin. Today, I am thrilled to introduce our next guest on the One Family Martial Arts Podcast, Katya Shestakova. Born in Kazakhstan, Katya began her journey into yoga, meditation, and breathwork at the age of 13. She later pursued a degree in clinical psychology at university and began practicing Chinese martial arts at 19, eventually winning multiple championships in Taichiquan. Her passion for martial arts led her to discover Iliqchuan, which she went on to teach alongside with Qigong and meditation at her own school in Saint Petersburg, Russia. At 30, Katya embraced a new path, becoming a Buddhist nun and moving to a Chinese Buddhist monastery in Taiwan. After 2.5 years, she relocated back to America to study mindfulness practice under Venerable Jiru. Following a profound spiritual experience, Katya chose to return to the world to better serve her community. She now volunteers at a hospice and a Missouri foster care and adoption center, bringing her extensive experience and knowledge to support those in need. Katya, thanks for joining me today. I appreciate you.
Thank you for inviting me. And first of all, I want to start from congratulating you on your master's level. We didn't meet when that happened, so I'm very excited and very happy for you. Congratulations. I think it's well deserved. Good
Oh,
job.
thank you so much. You know, it's always nice to be appreciated.
Yeah.
So it was actually a big surprise when Sifu handed out those certificates. Well, it's been like 2 years now.
Yeah.
Um, so, uh, but you know, it's still a long way to go up the mountain. I mean, it's sort of as one of the experiences that I had some years ago was Sifu and I
Hmm.
and another couple of students from Iliqchuan. We were all in Texas together. We were going to do the competition that was down there every year,
Hmm.
and so I was just kind of like running over things, right? Like, I mean, we all have a certain amount of ego, right? And I think that's like one of the mistakes that most people make when they, especially when they start getting serious about martial arts, is they start to invest like a certain amount of their identity and everything,
Hmm.
you know, uh, with that martial arts practice, or like their self worth, I guess you could
Right.
say, and so it was the night before my fight, and I was just lying awake in bed thinking, and just sort of comparing myself, I guess, to the other students that were there at that time, and I had a certain, let's say, light bulb moment where I thought that even if at this moment, if everything else was the same, but I was the best student of Iliqchuan or I was the worst student of Iliqchuan, I still have the same distance to go to reach my destination, right? Like to reach
Mm.
the outcome. So whether I'm the best student or the worst student of Iliqchuan, it makes absolutely no difference. I still have the same amount of work to do, so who cares? Um, and so yeah, like just again, just relating that back to the example of getting awarded the
Hmm.
certificate of being a master in Iliqchuan. So I guess it's one of those things where you just accept it as it is, right? Um, so for I tried to give like a brief introduction for everybody, but please, for everyone watching or listening, please tell us more about your background and how you got involved. What was it that intrigued you about yoga, meditation, and
Mm.
breath work, especially at such a young age?
Yeah, that's
Um,
interesting, right?
yeah, and so please tell us about that.
Sure. Um, unlike many of your guests from this podcast, I was never interested in martial arts. I never watched the movie, no Bruce Lee, no Jet Li, nothing of that type of was interesting to me for some reason. But I was very interested in spiritual development. I guess very young, even like I was 7 years old, I would ask my mom about God and stuff like that. I remember even sitting alone in the room and reading a Bible, trying to understand it for kids, but still trying to understand it. And one time I ended up in the hospital with not a broken nose, but there was some problem with that. And I bought a book down there from library about yoga. At that time, I was listening to a song, something about willpower and mind control, mind power also. And in this book of yoga, also they were talking about willpower. And I was like, my goodness, it's so interesting. There is something in that I need to understand. So I was the only person that I knew at that time who was interested in that around me. I was living in Kazakhstan, and it's a big city called Almaty. Recently, Master Samchin went there with his first workshop in Kazakhstan. I was so excited. Unfortunately, I couldn't be there. But anyway, at that time, I don't know many people around me who would be interested in those things. So I tried to do yoga alone and practice breath work alone. It was always so fascinating to me because I wanted to understand what's wrong with me. I thought that something is wrong with me. I felt very lonely. I felt very bad. I felt out of place. My parents, great people. I love them. But for some reason, I couldn't find peace in my family. I love my friends, but I didn't want to hang out with them. I didn't like school because I didn't understand what's the point of learning about geometry when I don't understand the purpose of my life. So that's what I was trying to understand. And that is also the reason why I chose clinical psychology in order to, okay, I will fix my mind. At least I will fix myself, and then I will know what to do. Um, that didn't really help. I saw many wonderful people in the field of psychology, but I thought, I don't think that I want to follow their path. And I already moved to Russia at that time in Saint Petersburg, and I went to some kind of very easy public gym club where they had yoga and Taichiquan over there. Very, not every, I don't know, public gym would have Taichiquan, but anyway, they were right wushu. So I was like, it's so interesting. It's something again about willpower. And I'm very good, actually, like my coordination, body coordination is very good. I can easily do things. But there was something more to that. My first lesson that I went to, we were doing some kind of Qigong. And I remember having this wonderful feelings in my hands. And I was like, my goodness, I love it. I was first month, I was like paranoidly afraid that something would happen and I wouldn't be able to attend classes anymore. I really was like thinking, that's my life. I'm gonna do that forever because it feels so good. I was doing my first teacher, her name is Anna Mironova. We were traveling. She was organizing some retreats and workshops in Altai Mountains in Russia, which was wonderful. But I started to, being a little bit more curious. They call it martial art, they call it wushu, but all we're doing is just taolu, the forms, formal complexes. And yeah, we would go to competition, I would win them, but I was like, maybe there's something more to that. And I started to look more into other internal arts like Xinyiquan, Baguazhang, and stuff like that. I couldn't really pick at that time. And this is when another school of Tai Chi Chuan organized Alex Skalazup workshop in St. Petersburg. And I went there for the first time after 3 years of Tai Chi Chuan. And I remember the excitement with which I tried to follow his instructions because, he's a very good teacher and methodically can explain things. And I understand what he's talking about. I'm trying to do, and my body doesn't listen to me. And I'm like, there's something wrong. I was doing this Tai Chi Chuan, even if it's difficult, I still can mimic maybe something. But over here, it's like, I just don't get it. And Alex would say stuff that, this is the not unification of body and mind, that we need to go through that process of uniting them together. And this is why we're practicing Jibengong, basic exercises. And I thought, my goodness, I'm dropping out everything and I'm just focusing on doing this. I immediately went to summer camp in Russia. Before that, I met Alex Kolozov in April. May the same year, Master Sam Chin was in Russia. And that was just, it blew my world. His presence, his, I don't know, attention, his kindness, his ability to come to everyone and speak with them on their level of understanding. And that's my favorite story to talk about him. After workshop, it was May in Saint Petersburg, first time when we have like a kind of warm, nice weather, and there was a lot of dandelions there. And he would walk outside from the workshop, and he's just like, Saint Petersburg. And I was like, that, I want that, this ability to be present and just use your all five senses to, ground yourself in the present moment. I was not really, I mean, it was interesting to see all kind of tricks and yeah, big guys are trying to push him around and they can do nothing. It's all cool. But for me, I didn't understand anything about that. But the mind stuff was very exciting to me. And at the end of that workshop, he was giving a lecture to us about meditation. And he's like, just your ability to stay with the breath. If you can do it just for 30 minutes, your life is going to change. And I'm like, okay, that's what I'm going to do. That is my new job right now. And I was really serious about that. I thought, with the willpower, this is how you meditate. You just concentrate really hard and keep your attention on the breath, and my life gonna be changed in next week probably. Unfortunately, this didn't happen, right? But yeah, I was hooked and I started to be a very, very active member of Iliqchuan Russian school. I attended first summer camp where, oh my goodness, it was so scary. First of all, if you know me, the level of my social anxiety, especially at that time, was so high that just imagine to be around people is just so scary. But I'm like, I'm gonna do it anyway. I'm trying to work, partner work with the people, and I can. My shoulders are dying. I can't do anything, but I'm like, I'm gonna push through. I'm gonna do this, and immediately summer camp finished. I'm already planning next Qigong Semchin's workshop in Russia. It's in November. That finished. I'm already planning January retreat in Russia what they do. Don't talk, just spin 3 days,
Yeah,
spinning hands and no talking. Exciting, just like my eyes were burning. Like it's so cool, so interesting. And mind you, at that time, I was still a student in university. I was not really working, and my parents supported me with money to eat. And most of those money would go to those workshops. Because I would just sometimes eat, I don't know, noodles that you just brew with water or whatever, right? And
yeah.
just
Instant
everything,
noodles.
instant noodles, right? And everything just went to Iliqchuan. And this is half of the year after me practicing. I was in Moscow and we were sitting there together, Alex and Dasha, and we were talking about school in Saint Petersburg. At that time, Nikolai Kirillov was the uh, person who tried to develop Iliqchuan in St. Petersburg, and I was studying with him a little bit for less than a half of the year. And they saw my dedication, every event I'm there, every kind of opportunity I'm trying to learn, and they say, "Well, maybe you should try and open your own school." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" I think maybe at that time I had my first student level.
Hmm.
Uh, I was not, there are people who have some kind of martial art experience, and if you do a little bit of push hands with them, they know what to do. For me, you touch my hand, I would already be falling because after practicing Taichiquan, I was like listening power, and I would do kind of, especially being flexible. I don't know, for some reason I didn't have a concept of, standing, just be
Me.
good at just standing. I was everywhere. So I couldn't even fathom, why would I open my school without any kind of skills? But then Alex Kolozov was very serious about, this Chinese tradition of listening to your sifu. So I was a young student at that time. So I was in the train going home and I was like, okay, but my sifu is telling me to start the school and I'm not listening. Maybe that's wrong. Okay, I will try to open my own school, but I didn't dare to, uh find any location to invite anyone to ask money. I was just said to my friends, if you want to come join me at my house, we can, practice. And first year, that's what I did. First year, it was no charge, just, hanging out at my apartment. And in that year, I slowly gained more experience. I think that would be after 1 year already. I almost had third level. I was moving really quickly. Like every opportunity, half year passed, I'm already doing the exam. I found a location in the center of the city. I started to do like open house, inviting people. And I always try to be very honest. Okay, I'm a student, even though right now you see like level 3, it means I'm just learning how to do those things. And I don't have to lie to you. I'm just learning. But if you want to study that, I can help you from level 1. It was difficult. It was scary again because I was afraid of people. I made it my job, to stand in front of people and talk every single evening. It was scary. But in the setting of Iliqchuan, in the setting of partner training right now, there's no fear. Once we're talking about Iliqchuan, I forget about the fact that I'm shy person. Once we're out of the setting, sometimes even with the same people, we're out of the class. I'm like already, okay, I'm a shy person. I don't know how the identity shifts so quickly. But yeah, and I was again so serious about that. Every opportunity I would join the workshop, every opportunity I will, you know, do the exam. And I was learning very, very quickly. I guess that's how I end up in Iliqchuan world.
All right, well, let's pause there for a second. And so I would say that Iliqchuan is much more popular in the Russian speaking countries than it is in the United States, let's just say. Uh, what is it about the difference in mindset or culture between the two countries that makes Iliqchuan so appealing in Russia?
Mm. I am not sure what exactly would be the reason. I have few ideas. First one, I think we can really appreciate Master Alex Kolozub's job in that respect. He was a, I guess, successful and businessman and martial art owner and practitioner, owner of a club before that. So he applied his knowledge before and was able to kind of introduce that at that time, like forums where people were discussing stuff online were really doing good. And there was a lot of Russian speaking discussions about Iliqchuan, and he was able to have connections, I guess, with people, putting those videos, you also participating in some of them, and they were very exciting at that time. It's the beginning of the YouTube era where stuff just started to get popular. I would attribute the success mostly to that because right now I would say the success kind of declined in Russia too, and even Russian-speaking countries. It's not the same as it was before, like even 10, 15 years ago. So things slowly change.
Is that
Um,
just because of the change in the economy, do you think?
I don't really know. Uh, there could be different reasons. I don't think it's the only reason. I have suspicion for other reasons, but I'm not here to speculate about that. Yeah, but I
All
don't
right,
know. And right now, I
all right.
think Iliqchuan is starting to do very good in in Europe and in America too. So
Yeah, I mean, a few years ago, after our brief affiliation with the EWTO, I mean, that really opened up a lot of doors and
yeah,
introduced us to a new audience. So, yeah, like through kind of that Central European region, right now, Iliqchuan is really thriving,
yeah,
which is always good to see.
new blood.
People. yeah, it's always good to see new blood and people get interested in it. So, um, I've been involved with Iliqchuan since 2002. So
Yeah, very
coming
early.
up on 23 years now.
Wow.
Yeah, and so naturally, you don't invest that kind of time and effort into something that if you don't find it valuable, right?
Mm.
So it's always good to see, because you want to share when you have something valuable, so you want to share it, with other people, and then also, of course, other people benefit your practice. Let's say.
Yeah.
Um, so let's fast forward a little bit. Um, Tell me about because when did you first met Venerable Jiru at the retreat that we did at the first Mabo
Yes,
retreat, correct?
correct,
So
correct.
tell us more about from there.
Yeah, I'll tell a little before that. At certain point after my graduation with level six, Iliqchuan level six, I kind of started to experience a little bit difficulties with the communication with Master Alex. I do love him. I do appreciate him. There's a lot of great things that he taught me. Most of my basic is just, his work, his hard work. But we kind of started to fall out, and I had my school, right? And I was thinking, I think I want to quit because it doesn't work for me. And I cannot quit. I'm a very responsible person. I cannot just quit like that. So in my mind, I came up with a solution. I will raise a new level of instructors. So I opened instructor school of Iliqchuan. I had, I think, 6 students there. And we were practicing very hard for a whole year. We invited Master Alex to come and grade them. And I think 4 of them tried to, and only 3 went through. So I raised the new generation. And at that time, I wrote the letter to Master Semchen saying that unfortunately, my inability, to have a good communication with my Sifu leads me to a very painful, heartbreaking decision of leaving Iliqchuan. And he responded to me, he's like, "What are you talking about? Even if you don't have a good communication with your Sifu, it's still your school. You're invited to come to any other place. You're invited to come here to headquarters. We're having this event over here. Come join us." And I was so elated because I was under impression that it is a big no-no. If you cannot have a good, respectful relationship with your Sifu, you're just an outcast. I punished myself, for that. So I was like, okay, let me go. And that was the year of first martial art retreat at Maba. And before that, I attended Vipassana retreats in Thailand. I was exposed to Theravada Buddhism. I learned from monk uh, Ajahn Chitri in Russia also. And I was, of course, very respectful of Theravada tradition. So when I heard about Master Jiru, yeah, maybe he's a friend of Master Semchen, I was like, but this is a Chinese tradition. I don't know if I like that. So honestly, I was very, um, how to say, there was some kind of prejudice from my side
Right, right.
before we went to Maba. And I was flying together with a Chin family, and I was listening to, kids talking about Sinzi and Yan Li, kids of Master Semchen, about their experience with Master Jiru from young age. Like, oh, he just locked himself up for 3 years in a trailer without phone, and oh, he did this and this, and they're afraid of of him. And I thought, well, maybe there is something about this Master Jiru. Let me see. I don't know why I was so, full of myself, thinking that I can be someone who judged a monk of 40 years. So we went to Maba. Uh, Master Jiru welcomed us, how to say, in front of his own house. He invited everyone to go inside, and I felt for some reason again that I don't know, I cannot allow myself to even walk inside the monk's house. Everyone went. I was standing outside, and I was like very, very respectful of him. And um, he would give lectures, and I see he would struggle with English, and he was kind of maybe shy sometimes, and I would hear the like trembling in his voice because it was maybe difficult for him to speak in front of so many people. But at some point, I started to just sit in front of him and just during the lecture cry. And I couldn't really figure out why. It's like, it doesn't really make sense. Why would I cry? And this was the year where we had a sun eclipse, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And everyone went there to enjoy sun eclipse. I went to the mausoleum to sit with the ashes. And it's like, okay, you're not dead yet. What are you crying about? And this is where I decided, okay, I just need to go to him and maybe express my, I don't know, deep feelings that I don't even have words for. And after one lecture, he stopped the lecture, everyone walked away, and I came up to him and he said, "What do you want to say?" I put my palms like this and I just slowly bowed. And he said, "Oh, okay, okay." That was our communication. And I was kind of calmed down after that for some reason. Maybe it was my deepest gratitude. Maybe that was my connection with him. I don't know. And a little bit again of a backstory. When I was like 23 years old, I was thinking to become a Christian nun in our Orthodox tradition. But my father, do you call him father? The priest? Father
Yeah, yeah.
priest?
Hmm.
He was against it and he kept telling me that I don't think it's a good idea. So I thought about it a lot and I was like, okay, when are you going to be 30 years old? You're going to come back to that again. But right now, maybe you're too young. You need to experience life a little more. So back at that year at MABA, I was exactly 30 years old. And the workshop is done. Everyone left, and I stayed behind. I originally planned to stay behind. And Master Jiru came to me and said, "Well, I heard you would like to maybe move to America." I said, "Yes." And he said, "I can help you." I said, "Wonderful." He said, "But you would need to become a nun." I said, "Yes." And he looked at me like as if I'm crazy because maybe he thought I just want to move to America. I mean, it's a good thing. I wanted to do that, but being a nun was way much more exciting for me. So that is how I became a nun. At 30 years old, he just told me, "Would you want to become a nun?" I said, "Yes." It was like half of the second, I didn't have to think about it because everything lined up. Even the solar eclipse lined up for me to make this decision. It took me about 1 year and a half to organize everything in Russia to make sure that, I'm ready. My school is okay. Right now, Daniil Novik is taking over, my position, and he asked me for permission to keep the name of the school. And they moved location, but they're doing great. I'm very happy for them. Um, and this is when, but I couldn't immediately move to America. I had to go somewhere and have 2 years of monastic experience before I would be allowed to go to America. And we were looking different places, and this is how I end up in Taiwan without knowing Chinese language.
Right. So, tell me more about that experience.
It was interesting. It was crazy. First of all, like if you tell someone, I decided to get rid of everything without knowing any language, without knowing culture, just become a Buddhist nun and go live in Taiwan. I asked Master Jiru, is that a good place? First time, he didn't say anything, and I was like, okay, that's a bad sign. uh, it's a famous monastery over there, very rich because it is built after one famous teacher, Master Yin. He was originally born in China, but after Cultural Revolution, he had to escape to Taiwan, and he wrote a lot of good books, educational books, about returning to origins of Buddhism, because Chinese Buddhism took form of ritualistic procedures, mostly dedicated about the afterlife, especially the ancestors' afterlife. You go to pray in a temple for example, 2 weeks, and you pray that your, ancestors are not in hell. And that's basically Buddhist tradition, Chinese Buddhist tradition at some point, most of it, not everything. But he was writing a lot of those good books about because he tried to bring back the original teaching from Indian tradition, that what maybe we heard, like term Hinayana, which means like lower Buddhism, right? Um, and not everyone was happy with him. At that time, he was Master Jiru, not very popular, but later on, he became more and more respected, and that's where this temple was built. We had 6 floors, 3 elevators, a garden on the 6th floor. It was a beautiful, incredible place. And it was so hot that I personally, living there for 2.5 years, almost never went outside, maybe once a month. And I spend my days either in my room or in the 6th floor in the garden. So that's basically what I did because I didn't know the language and because Master Jiru was a teacher over there. He introduced me and he asked Abbott over there, please let her do her own thing. Please don't. It's a very busy place because you need to do a lot of those rituals and pray for deceased and for marriage and stuff like that. And when you do a lot of those public services, you don't have much time for your own practice. So I received a little bit of a special treatment and I was able to concentrate on my practice. And this is where I was met with a huge dilemma. I was like, okay, right now my life is dedicated to practice. What I want to do, I want to be mindful. I want to develop good concentration, meditation. I want to get rid of anger, illusion, lust, and nothing is happening. It's like, what exactly am I doing wrong? There's going to be only 2 reasons why it's not working. Either I'm not understanding something. Second, the method is not working. And I was determined to figure out what is the reason. And I must admit, I'm trying to be careful and not say many bad things. I met a lot of great people, hardworking, kind, generous. There are so many good examples that you can follow, but there's this one teaching of Master Sam Chin that stuck with me from, I don't know, maybe 2008 or 2009. One day at Moscow school, after workshop, we were sitting and he was explaining to us about 3 types of feelings, right? We have pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral. And normally we went, like in a normal person's idea, we want to go from experiencing unpleasant, all kind of depression, anxiety. We want to get rid of that, and we want to feel all the good, pleasant feelings also and emotions. We want to be happy and joyful and so on. But Master Sam Chin keeps saying you need to go beyond, transcend, beyond, transcend. And I was like, I don't even understand what is that. So I decided to ask him, you're talking about transcend, transcend. What is it? And he kind of sat back. He took his cup of tea and he's like, right now, this tea is the best one I have because there's nothing to compare it to. Even to say the best, there is comparison, but in reality, this tea just is. And I was like, okay, there is some kind of wisdom there. How do I get to this this suchness feel? And I must admit, I did not, in my life, meet a lot of people who would be able to teach me this as is. And for example, the place that I used to stay in Taiwan, there were 23 nuns there. And I would immediately, right now, bow down to 2 of them. One, because she was extremely kindful for anyone. Doesn't matter who treats her like what. She was, I'm keeping my loving kindness. And that's respectful. For me, I think it's just impressive. And another one was wise. And she was very new there. No one respected her. And that was a big surprise for me too. It was like, you think monks and nuns, being on that side, I must tell you that they're people just bold and just in different clothes. They're just people, just like that. I've seen things. But I was determined. I was like, okay, they can do whatever they want. But I'm here. I have my own assignment. I want to figure out, okay, if this works, then I'm going to figure out how. And one of that was, of course, my love to judge. Maybe you already noticed that in my description, because I felt that everyone is doing something wrong. Everyone's just, it's just, this is not how it's supposed to be. During lunchtime, people are talking. I would be so, I don't know, bold. I would stand up and walk away because I think we're monks. We are not allowed to talk. I was very, very judgmental. And at one point, I had to be moved to another place to receive a training when there's like 1,000 people over there. I don't want to talk too much about that, but it was very bad over there. It was just prayer on prayer. I was like, where's the wisdom? Where's the wisdom of Buddhists? Why are we praying and doing all those rituals? But I had to go through that training because I needed to receive the documents. And my head was just exploding from the pain of just everyone is wrong. Everyone is wrong. Everything is wrong. And I'm not saying that I'm right, but it's just wrong. And I had a little bit of a mental breakdown to the point where just like, okay, can you just stop? Can you just stop thinking? Can you just stop talking? Can you just stop saying that they're wrong? If you need to stand up and hold your hands like this for 2 hours, just do this without thinking. If you need to do something else in the 110 degrees heat with 3 layers of clothes with socks on, and you just bow down with 500 people around you. When you bow down, you sometimes bump in, the front of someone's behind. It doesn't matter. Just do that. And I was able to stop it. I was able to stop my mind. And that was my first attempt of understanding, okay, there is some kind of function in the mind that makes it worse. And if I'm able to cross over those opinions, views, and ideas, it is way much easier. My first half of the year in Taiwan was so bad that I would almost cry every day. We would go to some kind of prayer and for 2 hours, and I was like, this is so ridiculous. I'm not learning Buddhism to pray. I had enough of that before. And I would just sit there and cry, and people would notice. And I felt so lost because I thought all my life I was trying to run away of stupidity, and I end up right now in like the midst of stupidity because it doesn't work. But slowly, I was able to figure out how that works, right? How to calm my mind down a little bit. Then I had problems with anger and irritation, I was living with a lot of Asian aunties, as you may say, those nuns in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. They're trying to be, like very loud and talkative and caring, very nice. But it's something that personally I do not enjoy. I prefer if everyone's, quiet. So every time after lunch, there was one very nice nun that was trying to take care of me. And she would, come to me and say, oh, try this. And in my mind, I'm a nun. I shouldn't be caring about taste of the food. Why is she trying to give it to me? And I would always be very angry at her. And then I would go to my room and be so angry with myself that I was angry with this wonderful nun that was trying to take care of me. And I was trying to understand how to stop the anger. Every time before going to lunch, I would hold my doorknob and say, I'm not gonna get angry. I'm not gonna get angry. And of course, and that would not work. So it's like, okay, it's not a willpower. There is something more to that. And I had this wonderful teacher over there. She was able to explain to me the important thing that she told me is the ability to just be brave to look at your own feelings when they arise, not to run away from anger in the sense anger is so bad that I need to stop experiencing it. It's actually putting more fire to that. And anger is not yours to control. Anger is just there. Can you just be brave and look at that? And it was magically because once I actually like redirected my whole attention, like, okay, there's anger. And immediately was gone. And it was very interesting. So I decided, okay, right now I'm crying here every day, being very depressed and actually suicidal. Can I look at that with the same feelings, with the same braveness? I don't know. I closed my windows. I shut myself inside the room and I was like, 2 hours, 3 hours, how many I have right now? All I'm going to do is just to experience my, I don't know, my depression, my pain, my suicidal thoughts, whatever. and they would come up, like waves and very painful in my chest for some reason. It's like as if I didn't had any skin over here, and I would just experiencing it. Looking at that, it was painful. I would cry. I would do it again. I would repeat some kind of words that would trigger it again. I would do it again, again, again. I would roll on the floor. And at some point, I was like, okay, okay, yeah. Where is the pain? Like, where is depression? It's like if you go down deep enough, then there's just nothing there. It was very, very surprising. And at some point, I started to enjoy my life over there, even thinking maybe I should stay in Taiwan because it was so difficult. It was not something I wanted to myself, but it always kept me, busy. And this is, I guess, where my time in Taiwan was done, and my documents were ready, and I had to go further with my practice.
So when uh, like before Jiru left you in Taiwan,
Mm.
did he give you like any special assignments or like any training methods to practice while you were there?
Well, he's made training as mindfulness to be mindful of your movements if you move, or being mindful of your breathing if you don't move, right? And of course, he would teach us with martial art workshop the same thing, the four postures. And I mean, in theory, it's wonderful teaching, right? But once you're met with people around you, and like my whole life, I was afraid of people and I was running away from people. And now I chose specifically to work with that, and I didn't know how to. And again, I want to be very clear and direct. I respect Master Jiru. I'm so grateful. I'm over here just because of him. He changed my life. I'm extremely grateful. But at the same time, I was not provided any assistance over there. One time I reached out, and Master Jiru told me that he cannot help me. This is where I stopped any communication. So for 2 years and a half, I was there alone.
Okay. Um, but I mean, depending on how you want to look at it, I mean, you could almost say that that was what you needed at the time
I think
because
so.
it put you in the pressure cooker, that like you had the right conditions to be able to break
Yeah.
through.
Yeah, yeah. I'm actually grateful for that, But at the same time, both things exist at the same time. I'm grateful for that, and that's exactly what I needed, but it doesn't mean that I didn't feel very great about that. I
Right,
felt
right,
abandoned, I must admit, right? But maybe that's exactly what I needed. You're right.
right. So then, tell us a little bit more about, like once you came back to Maba,
Yeah.
um, and then did you begin a new phase of your training at that point, and what did that look like?
Yes. I decided again to be a very respectful student. I will do everything for my teacher. I want to keep my life connected to monasticism. I thought it's just the best thing for me because for the first time of my life, I was happy, I think. Actually happy being a nun. I really enjoyed after my first 6 months as a nun. I started to really enjoy being a nun. And I decided to be very respectful, uh, honor my teacher and listen what he says, and honor his teaching and be a good student. At the same time, knowing that I have my own way of practicing, and I cannot say that I agree with everything that he's teaching, right? I was like, okay, I can be my own island, and that's the only way possible. I can be respectful. I learn how to live in a community with people that I care about, but it doesn't mean that I have to be agree with them on every single point. And it was working well for me till the point where a new person went to our monastery. And that person was a young man who had a lot of difficulties, mental struggles. I don't want to tell much about his story, but family life was rather difficult, where he needed a lot of guidance and assistance. and knowing how important assistance is when you're just new to that, I was puzzled. I enjoyed myself being a nun, but I was thinking, okay, how can I help someone to transition to a point where it's enjoyable? At one point, I locked myself up for, I think I aimed for 21 days, but I only end up spending there like 19 days. Well, anyway, about 3 weeks. I locked myself in Town Hall, if you remember, the building where the big statue of the Buddha. It was winter time. Master Jiru left, so I had all my time for myself, and I tried not to do much things, not to try, try not to do a lot of work because I thought it will distract me. Because when you have only your time for meditation, you would take any opportunity to get out of there. And working sometimes also something, to refresh your mind. So I only allowed myself to read Samyutta Nikaya, is one of the books, main books in Buddhism, and to meditate, sitting, laying down, and I did a little bit of a breath work with holding the breath on exhale. And at some point, I'm a very good sleeper. Usually I can, if I allow myself, I can sleep, I think like 15 hours. I never experienced problems with sleeping. And one night I just was laying down in my bed, experiencing almost no body, just feeling, light, pleasant sensation. I couldn't fall asleep, but I was just, radiating with pleasant sensations in the body, in the mind, even though the body didn't feel like a body. And I was just, I don't know, radiating light. And I, I end up this experiment feeling like I found what I needed. I know how to feel good. And once I get out of there, people are suffering. What do I do? I told Master Jiru I want to go volunteer at the prison. And Master Jiru tells me, well, what's the point? We cannot make them Buddhists. And I was thinking, I'm not interested to make anyone Buddhists. I just want to help people in suffering. Uh, I want to, I want to help people regardless whether they're Buddhist or not. And this new man experiencing difficulties, and I'm just keeping distance because I think that's what is supposed to happen. He's a man, I'm a woman over here, right? We shouldn't get together much, but he's experiencing difficulties, and no one is guiding him through that. And the only guidance is given, the mindfulness. I respect mindfulness. It's the best tool once we understand that to be in the present moment, we need to see a bigger picture. Present moment is the result of past. If past is not dealt with, there is no willpower that can keep us in the present moment. The past is in the body, the amygdala, whatever our brain is doing is triggering stuff. And we cannot be in the present moment because body reacts to past triggers. So to tell someone, who is experiencing difficulties to just be mindful is to disregard to some degree what is going on with inside their mind. Just forget about what your mind doing, just think about body. Good, but sometimes it's just overpowering. So I made a decision at that point, okay, I'm gonna get involved. My job is to understand. Buddha said he only taught two things: what is suffering and what is the end of the suffering. Only two things. Whole Buddhism is just only two things. And in order to be able to understand the end of suffering, we need to see the causality. And the causality, our present moment, comes from the past. So if we unwind the past, we can understand how to work in the present too. And the present is the substratum for our future, and that's how our picture is bigger, right? So at that moment, I started to dig deeper, it's the specific problems that the person was having and the causality of them. And that led me more into kind of psychological aspect of trauma. If a person experienced some painful moments in their past, they don't see the present. there's like some kind of lens over there that, I'm talking to you, but I'm actually talking with, maybe my abuser because you look like him, just imagination. And I
Right.
cannot be relaxed because there's just something in my past, for example. And this is where I met, a person online that I end up having a consultation with, where I had a very, very profound experience where I finally was able to realize what I was thought, my struggle from the past was. I met myself being 5 years old, looking up to my parents and trying to engage with them, but they're like everyone else, kind people. But they were just busy, working, and they had no time, interacting with me. And I was holding my hands up, trying to see the light in their eyes, that they understand, that they want to know the truth, that they want to understand how this world works. But they were already too tired to try to understand because they had to feed the family. And all my life, I was looking for that person who would have the light in their eyes, who would be interested to find the truth. And when I was 33 years old, I finally met that person, and that person was me. And there was, I cannot explain, I don't know how it sounds like, but it was so deep. It just changed my, I don't know, even physicality, when I was able to, that little girl who was looking for someone, and that me who was saying that you are right, you found what you're looking for. We kind of, as yin yang, as the inner child, we met together. And this is when I realized, I am receiving methods how I want to help other people, and they're not fully aligned with the tradition that I am currently in. And I need to move on. It's time for me to move on. And I'm talking with this young gentleman, trying to help him, and I tell him, okay, I have three options. We can either stay as monk and nun and try to create our own monastery somehow. We can disrobe and work together, or we can disrobe and be a couple. And we decide to disrobe and be a couple, and that's how it ends. And I would say, it sounds like for a normal person that the main reason would be, the attraction. He's a wonderful guy. I loved him from the very beginning, I think, but the sexual attraction was not something that would pull me because it's not a big part of my, I don't know, physicality. And I knew that I can work with that person my whole life just nearby, and that would be enough for me. I didn't have to, marry him immediately. But uh, the, I guess I just needed to move on. I needed to have more tools to help to people. And I didn't have options to do that over there. That was the reason for me leaving. One of the reasons. I have many of them.
Right. So now that you're back in the world,
Yeah.
what are your plans for the immediate future? Are you going to start up another Iliqchuan school in Missouri?
I would have if cows would practice Iliqchuan.
Right.
But right now I'm living like 30 minutes away from Jefferson City, and Jefferson City is a rather small place. And in the town that I'm currently in, we don't even have a traffic lights. We only have stop signs. It's a very, very small town. And my hope is to actually unify three things: my education in psychology, my experience in meditation and Buddhism, and my knowledge of martial arts, Iliqchuan, Zhongxingdao, and yoga, and to unite it as some kind of tool where we can, address the issues from different sides, from either physicality, body-mind connection, or understanding, on a spiritual level, meditation, how we can calm ourselves down, or just straight up psychological events. But I think it's a project for, I don't know, maybe next 10 years.
Right.
I don't think that it's going to work out immediately. It takes some time. So, yeah, I visited Master Sam Chin a few months ago. unfortunately, I don't have a lot of resources right now to travel and, to just study from him. I need to work.
Of course.
Yeah, so it takes some time and we'll see how it works. I'm very open, to any kind of events, but yeah, the financial side is still kind of struggling a little bit.
Right, right. It'll pass.
Hopefully.
I'm sure that you'll get things moving in the right direction, and then I bet you that once more people become aware of the work that you're doing, it'll probably snowball pretty quickly because I think there's probably a lot of demand for somebody with your experience and motivations,
Thank you.
especially right
Thank you.
now in modern society. I think things are heading in a wrong direction for basically everybody,
Mm.
and so I think you're probably in a very sort of it's like same thing like when you went to Taiwan, right? It was like you got put in the pressure cooker, and that gave you the right conditions for you to go to the next thing. Well, so now we have all this giant pressure cooker that we're all in, and
Yeah, indeed.
everyone. I think everyone needs right. Everyone needs like a good direction and guidance, right?
Mm.
And you can't guide yourself, right? You need somebody from the outside to help
Yeah,
guide you. And so
that's true.
I think there's, like I said, there's going to be a lot of possibilities for you to be very successful with your next endeavor. But tell everybody a little bit now more about the work that you're doing with volunteering while you're waiting for the rest of your paperwork to go through.
Yeah, it's something very, at the same time, beautiful and endearing, but also so scary. For me, the hospice work I did for 9 months, and those mostly I had ladies. It's a wonderful job when I don't even know how to explain. I have so much love that I want to share. That I want to go there and then hug all the ladies that sit in the hospice and they're so lonely. And there's one reason they all there is because we're going to die. And the death, no one wants to talk about it. And I don't understand why. I think it's the most important topic in our life because our life is only there because death is there. I don't know. They're just so connected, life and death. And we need to, I think everyone will benefit if we open ourselves to this, daily contemplation that I'm going to die. My family members are going to die. Whatever I own at some point going to be taken away from me. Whatever I think at some point not going to be so important. And I do love working in hospice because it just shows that this life is so momentarily actually, it is
Right,
so short. And it does give me the sense of, I don't know, purpose. But at the same time, when I go to hospice, I understand for most of them it's too late. Too late to contemplate. Some of them, you know, I ask one lady, what is your best memory from your childhood? And she looks at the wall and in the window and she says, oh, this window is a good memory because she just remembers, she cannot remember anything. She just sees in front of her and that's her life. Nothing will stay there. So this is why right now I'm slowly transitioning to work with kids. That's my original motivation because again, every bad event, every bad person, they all are born from our childhood trauma. All the murderers, all the rapists, something happened to them. And the generational trauma is generational curse is a scary thing. And there are so many kids in foster care that when they go through the system, it's not going to help them sometimes because they end up with maybe people that are even worse. And I think that if I at least can share the light, the hope that, if we spend some time uh, addressing our own trauma and understanding that there was nothing wrong with us, that, adults failed us, that we're still good and pure and honest. I would know if I would be able to do that with at least one kid, my life is not going to be in vain. And I'm just starting with kids. I didn't have an experience yet, but that's what I want to do right now.
Right. Well, that's a good place to start.
Thank you.
Um, so I know you're doing a YouTube channel.
Oh, I'm trying. Yeah.
Yeah. So if everybody wants to follow up with what you've got going on, and you started a website recently too, right?
Oh, yeah. I tried. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell people if they want to follow up with you, what's the name of your YouTube channel and your website?
We can have the links in the description, I guess, right? It would be
Yeah. Yeah.
easier because I think my YouTube channel is still under name Conquer, which was my monastic name. I probably should address that. And my website, I think it would be easier if we just leave the link. Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Quite
No
nice.
problem.
Mm.
Um, all right. Well, that's about our time for today. So, as you have a very fascinating trajectory from life in Kazakhstan now to rural life in Missouri and everywhere in between. Um, so maybe some other time, I have some more follow-up questions for you, that
Mm.
things that I'd like to hear your perspective on. So we'll be in touch on that. But
I would love that.
Katya, thanks for joining me today. I appreciate your time, and I hope everybody got something out of this episode, that even though we didn't focus as much on the topic of martial arts in particular, at least for Iliqchuan students, the topic of mindfulness and this process of training is a critical one. So this episode should be still very valuable for people, and so I hope that they all enjoy it and find it enlightening.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I was honored.
Oh, it's my pleasure. All right, Katya, thank you so much. Appreciate you, and I'll be in touch.
Okay, bye bye.